Hello to the YTPC and welcome back to the Bull and Burley. Thank you for joining me again today. I am Caleb and today, Virginia is for lovers. Alright, I wanted to do a breakdown today video on Virginia tobaccos. It's one of the most intriguing and iconic of the base tobaccos out there, but there's a lot of misunderstanding, there's a lot of misinformation, or just not really, I guess you could say, clear information on tobaccos in the Virginia category for new people. It's something harder to understand when you're first getting into the pipe smoking hobby or you're just starting to research. It can get a little overwhelming with all the blend styles and the tobacco leaf types and the casing and treating types and all of the things like that. And Virginia's is one of those categories of pipe tobacco that is, to me, the most versatile and the most intriguing and the most flavorful. But if you approach it the wrong way, or you approach it without understanding what you're getting into, it can also lead to some unpleasant experiences as a pipe smoker. So for the breakdown, and this isn't a history lesson specifically on Virginia, but the breakdown, just to make it simple for new people, if you want to start experimenting with Virginia tobaccos and the different blends of Virginia. So the two main categories of Virginia leaf are a bright leaf and a red leaf. Now the bright leaf is your tart, sugary, like brighter flavors and stuff like that, but it's going to have a little more fire to it, a little more tang to it. The red leaf is something that's deeper and richer, and you have more of the earth tones and fruity notes to it. So those are the two. And this is not all inclusive, and I'm not a tobacconist. This is just my experiences as a pipe smoker and my exploration in Virginia's, specifically that category. It is the category of pipe tobaccos that I find is the most interesting, the most flavorful. You get the most dynamic experiences out of. You really can get a lot out of a good Virginia pipe tobacco and or their blends with some proper knowledge going into it, and with a little bit of patience, because they do tend to bite more than the Burleys. Burleys is kind of the other main category of common pipe tobacco. Like, there's two real foundations in the pipe. If you were to put it this way, that the pillars of the pipe tobacco community are Burleys and Virginias, and the blends based off of those and the mixtures of those. So overall, the Virginias tend to be sweeter. They tend to have less nicotine, and they also tend to be a little more finicky when it comes to actually smoking them. You might find yourself getting more tongue bite, and that kind of thing, because they have more sweetness in them, and they do tend to burn a little bit more crispy, I guess you could say, on the tongue. But if you learn where to start and how to break down your approach to smoking Virginias and experiencing them, it can really, really change your experience and not turn you off of it. Because to me, the cleanest, purest, historical smoke in reference to American tobacco industry is going to be the Virginias. Burleys are also a foundational element to the American tobacco community, but our history as a tobacco nation really kind of was solidified or stemmed from the Virginias in the Virginia colony, and then I think it was John Rolfe transplanted, and there was some back and forth, and there's better history teachers out there than me when it comes to the history of tobacco. You actually listen to the professional tobacconist types like Cornell and Deal, or on some of the websites and forums and stuff, to get a real good solid breakdown of the exact historical reference for Virginia tobaccos. But know this, it was one of the early iterations, the Virginia leaf, and how it was transported and how it was cured and how it was presented for use are really what developed the characteristics of all the different Virginia types and blends that we use today. Okay, so I am trying a little bit different of a video format today. Actually, new equipment. I'm filming this all on my iPhone with some upgraded stuff to it. Just to see if we can't clean these videos up a little bit, and the audio as well. So Groot is my microphone holder. Say hello, Groot. I'm Groot. All right, it's going to be useful for once. Let's break this down very simple for new people. If you're looking for a good straight Virginia, and a straight Virginia means it's just Virginia leaf blend, meaning either brights or reds, more or less. There's probably other genus and species of Virginia I won't get into it. So Virginia blends are based primarily, straight Virginias, on brights and reds. Next to that, you have Virginia Perique blends. So you'll have a Virginia bright red mix with a little bit of Perique. And now Perique is a very specific type of tobacco that is only grown in the St. James Parish, grown and treated and prepared in the St. James Parish, and it is a condiment tobacco. It is the Cajun spice of tobaccos. Very realistically, it is the Cajun spice of tobacco. And if you've ever lived down south or in Louisiana or whatever, you've ever been to a crawfish boil, ooh boy, eating them mud bugs, I tell you what. I used to live there for a very long time and I loved it. And if you've been to that environment in that community, and then you taste an example of Perique, then you understand why it is the way it is. It makes sense. It's the Cajun spice. So Virginia Periques vapors are a mix of Virginia tobaccos, straights, with Perique added. Various degrees of Perique can change the experience. Perique is very peppery, very spicy, and it can add a lot of that spiciness to your smoke. So if you're going into Periques for the first time, you're probably going to get the flop sweats, and you need to go slow. You need to go gentle and slow and make sure you're not overdoing it, because it has got some life to it. So let's just go over real quickly other types of Virginia blends. You may find Virginia blended with burley. That's still, depending on the predominant leaf, it'll be either a Virginia or a burley blend. It's an accent in a lot of burley blends and in your Englishes. Virginia is kind of the foundation for a lot of the English blends. So you have Virginia, Oriental, Latakia, and maybe Perique that kind of leans towards, I think it's when you start adding Perique to it, it starts to look a little like an American English type of thing or whatever. But the Virginia is the foundation for a lot of that. But if you're looking for just straight, pure, clean Virginia to get started, what I would call a starter Virginia, you're going to look at something like Sutliff 507C Virginia Slices. This is a really good, subtle, easy smoking starter Virginia to me. There's others similar to it. Mac Baron Virginia number 1. That would be a good starter blend. Mac Baron's HH Pure Virginia. This is as uncomplicated as Virginias get so far as casing, topping, and blend, but it's very robust in its flavor. But it doesn't have Perique, so you're gonna find it a little easier to get rolling in right off the bat. Some of the other top contenders, just from what I've experienced or come across, now there's hundreds of blends out there, so you have to, don't get lost in the weeds too much. But something like Capstan Blue, which is their milder of the two Virginia blends they offer, and then Capstan Gold. They're two kind of foundational Virginia blends. They've been around a long time. They have a great following. They're very dynamic. They're very tasteful. They're very really intriguing tastes, but they're mellow. They're something you could smoke a lot of throughout a day without getting a lot of harshness and tongue bite and stuff like that. Recently, I've found another Virginia I really like that is similar to those pure Virginias, Juno by Savinelli. Rum-soaked Virginias, like Blockade Runner from Cornell and Deal, are more or less straight Virginia blends that have been soaked in rum. And that harkens back to the days of transporting Virginias across the ocean and stuff like that, so that the tobacco would survive. They'd be pressed into barrels and filled with rum as a preservative, more or less, to make sure the tobacco survived its journey across the ocean. And that also, in turn, imparts a really great flavor to it. One of the other really popular Virginias out there is Stokely Luxury Twist. And this is a very great Virginia. I just recently got myself this and started, working my way through some of the straight Virginias, the common straight Virginias. Just trying to find out what I like and what I want to sock away the best. Now, the beautiful thing about Virginias is that they do tend to age very well. They get a lot more mellow, a little sweeter, and then they tend to behave a little better after they've aged a long time, or at least a little while. So it's one of the things to think about when you're socking away a stash of Virginias. Virginias are going to stash very well compared to some of the other blends that have a lot of casing or topping or sweets and additives to them, like your aromatics and stuff. They may get a little funky as they age. They're not going to last for years on the shelf quite as good as some other things. Now, the Virginia Periques also age really well. Englishes, from what I understand, can age pretty well. Burleys can age pretty well, but they don't enrich as the age as much as Virginias do. So they may enrich a little bit, but not quite as much as a Virginia will. Okay, so let's move into like the more complicated Virginias. More complicated Virginias are going to be your Virginia Periques. Those are going to be the ones that are a little more dynamic. They offer a little more flavor. They're definitely going to offer you more flavor, but they may have a little bit more of a hard start to them when you get going. It might be a less, it's an intense experience if you're not expecting it. I personally, just from what I've personally experienced, think that Orlick Golden Sliced, which is one of these real foundational Virginias in the pipe smoking community, I find this to be probably one of the better Virginia Perique vapor blends as a starter, because it has almost no Perique in there, but it's enough. It's enough to start to introduce your palate to the nuance that a Perique adds to a Virginia smoke. So it's a good way to get going. A next step up for me, and I haven't sampled all the Virginias in the world, it's just too much, you can't. A next step up for me would be something like Elizabethan mixture. This is a really good introduction to Virginia Periques. The Savinelli Janus, also another good introduction to Virginia Periques, can get a little bit bitey. Savinelli makes some decent blends, and I think most of their stuff's blended by the Scandinavian Tobacco Group. No, Laudisi Distribution Group. It doesn't say on here who actually produces it, though. Anyway, this is some good stuff. It's pretty exotic. I think this might actually have some Orientals in it as well. The Janus has some Orientals in it as well, so you get a little bit of an introduction to the Orientals, and they add a whole new dynamic to a Virginia leaf. Next, we've got something like Special Curly from Peter Heinrichs. A little bit harder to get here in the States. If you're looking at bulk Virginias, though, like bulk bags, non-codger. And nothing I've picked out here is codger Virginias that you really will find over the shelf at the drugstore type of stuff. If you're looking along those lines, something like Mac Baren Amphora Virginia, that'd be a good place to start for a codger blend. But this type of stuff's a little harder to find here. This is a really heavy Virginia Perique. It's really good, but it's very heavy on the Perique. So it takes a little bit of getting used to and a little bit of patience to smoke. For a bulk blend, Peter Stokkely's Luxury Navy Flake. So they have Peter Stokkely's Luxury Twist Flake and the Navy Flake. Now, the Navy Flake has Perique in it, so it's a Virginia Perique. Then you move into things that are a little more complex, I would say. But this one, Green Dragon from the Country Squire, one of my favorite all-time smokes. It is very complex. It appears to have a little bit of Cavendish in it, and I didn't look up the breakdown on their website. I don't think they're very specific about it, and I haven't called specifically to ask, but this one has a little bit of Cavendish in it, which is a treatment type. You'll see that it's really black. It's really dark cut, and that adds an element of almost an aromatic element to it, but this is not really an aromatic. It's a Virginia. I believe there's some Perique in there as well, so this is a really good dynamic smoke. Then you move into other favorites like LJ Peretti. Now, LJ Peretti, I kind of have they have a lot of casing and topping, it feels like, in some of their Virginia blends that have given me some of the worst chemical or acidic experiences with Virginias that I've had. But I really do enjoy some of them, like Number 8 Slice. Number 8 Slice is a really good, thick, looks like bacon when it's cut. So this is a really good one. The samples I've got of this so far have been really good. They've smoked really well. They're very, very dynamic. There's a lot of vinegar, a lot of ketchup to these. It's deep, rich, and dark. I feel like they use probably more dark Virginia than anything, and a lot of Perique and stuff like that. But they don't have a specific breakdown of their blend on the website. And you can't always, if you go to like tobaccoreviews.com, you can't always take, they've done a really good job of building that category, the people who run that website, and really putting the time and energy into it. So you can get good information from there, but it may not be 100% exactly. Okay, back where I was at. When it comes to looking on tobaccoreviews.com, I would say it's a really good source, and it's a really great starting point for blends and what's in them, but some of the information may not be exactly accurate. depending on in the reviews. Let me put it that way, in the reviews and people's interpretation of it. So reach out to the blenders if you really want to know what's in it. For certain, know what's in it. The other one from LJ Paredes is London Flake. I've had a really good experiences with London Flake. It's got some, I believe it's got some burley in it. It smells and tastes like it has some burley in it. It reminds me of a more Virginia heavy version of Macabaron Symphony, and Macabaron Symphony is a burley blend with Virginia in it. The one I've had the worst experience with is 150 Flake. I went out on a limb and bought an 8-ounce tin of this, and I regret it. I didn't buy a sample first because it was the driest tobacco I've ever seen. It was like dust in here. And I tried to smoke some. I tried to rehydrate it. It's a non-starter. It's never worked. It's never been good. It won't rehydrate. I've tried several different types of rehydration and stuff like that, and it's just a waste. It was a waste of money. It has burned the crap out of me, and I have not enjoyed it. So take it or leave it. Maybe just my bad experience, but this can looks like it probably was 150 years old, as dry as it was. Which it really wasn't 150 years old. It was just really dried out. It crumbles like dust. If I pulled it out of here right now, you could crumble it and it would turn to powder and float around the room. So bad experience. That is a general breakdown though. Okay, so this is not all inclusive. These are just a lot of the ones that I've experienced and had either really bad experiences with or really great experiences with, and the ones I've kind of settled on as my top favorites, like my top contenders for vapor. If I want a light vapor, Golden Sliced by Orlick. The Pure Virginias is where I lean more than anything as a regular smoke. I do smoke burleys and stuff too, and I like Englishes, so I kind of have an eclectic taste palette. I try a lot of things, but I do reach for Virginias more than anything. Blockade Runner is also really good rum-soaked. I don't have a lot of experience with other rum-soaked Virginias, but this is one of the more favorite ones that I remember trying, and so I've bought multiples of. Only recently have I started trying Capstan, and I'm still like, I just got these 2 new tins in, and I only had samples that I'd tried before, and I liked them enough to be like, okay, I want to get some tins. So I might actually let these age for a year before I dip into them. Pure Virginia by Mac Barron. This one is one of my favorites. The last tin of it I smoked, which was this tin, is almost 2 years old. And it was over a year old before I'd had it for over a year before I really got into it fully. Sutliff 507C Virginia Slice, or Virginia Slice. That one's a really good one I've enjoyed. Love the Orlick. There was the Peter Stokkebye's Luxury Twist Flake. That one's another really good one. I'm going to enjoy some of that today, or maybe some Capstan Blue, because I really want to dip into that. It's supposed to be fresh, even fresh is supposed to be milder than most of the others out there. So that's kind of my impressions on Virginias, and for new people going forward, if you want to dip into Virginias, I highly suggest it. It's I won't say it's an acquired taste. It's something you just have to approach with a little maturity and patience, because the Virginias are the most dynamic of the tobaccos as a foundation, like the pillar tobacco. Orientals get really dynamic, and Latticay gets really dynamic and stinky, and Paricas, whoa, it's wild. But I'm talking about the pillar, the foundation of your pipe smoking journey. Virginias is going to be a big part of that, because it's in a lot of the blends you may already enjoy. And when you learn how to sample and enjoy it just straight up, it just changes your experience. It changes your perception, and it to me is the most transportive of the tobaccos to the old ways, to the old tobaccos, the old styles, and the old ways of smoking. It really is smoking a pipe. It's a foundation. It reminds me of frontier colonial days. In the halcyon days of the burgeoning of the tobacco industry in America specifically, and in Europe. So I would highly recommend it. Try some of these examples. Your mileage may vary. Tastes and palates are different, but you can find small enough samples of them to give it a taste, give it a try. And if you don't have a great experience with a Virginia right off the bat, my best advice for the new people going into this, if you're going to jump on a Virginia train, give it some time. if you try it at first and you don't like it, or you have a bad experience with it, something like Elizabethan. I had a really bad experience right off the bat with this one. I just got a lot of tongue bite. A lot of that was immaturity on my part as a pipe smoker and how to approach Virginias. And approaching them with taller, thinner pots is a good starting point with more or less straight or longer, like church warden type of pipes. You may get a little better experience out of that. But after I let my Elizabethan sit for a year, or a little over a year, revisited it, loved it. I was like, oh man, this is a really great blend. I don't know what was turning me off about it. So don't throw the blend out with the bathwater, okay? If you have a bad experience, put it in a jar, set it aside. Give it a few months, give it a year, and revisit it. Some of them you may just right off the bat love it. Like Sutliff 50C, the Orlick right off the bat, loved it. Capstan right off the bat, yep, I'm all in. Blockade Runner was another one. I had a little bit of tongue bite at first. I had I couldn't really get a feel for it. I kept it on my desk. I kept it in the tin for a year, open in one of these tins. These type of tins, like Cornell and Deal does, the American style, they tend to hold their air really well, their seal really well. So left it on my workshop desk in here, and I would revisit it every now. And over the course of a few months, I really started to enjoy it, and I really started to love it. And I was like, oh man, okay, this is a great blend. It's different than some of the other straight Virginias. It's different than the Virginia Periques. And I really started to get that grass, hay, citrus out of it. That was just intriguing and alluring. It has a great smell into it. And I'm like, all right, I can get behind that. So patience, try it out a little bit. And I hope you have some good experiences. Find something great that you like in this. And my wish to everyone, as I always say, I hope you find good friends, fair winds, cool smokes, with good pipes, and a blessed life. Enjoy.